What's up, Pitt fans? Welcome to another edition of the PG Pitt Show brought to you by FanDuel. I'm Stephen Thompson. That's Abby Schnable. We cover Pitt athletics for the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, and we are gearing up for a big-time showdown in Tallahassee, Florida this weekend. Number 25 Florida State hosting Pitt. And Abby, this feels like a week where we're going to learn a lot about the Panthers. This is really their test of the season so far, and you throw a freshman quarterback into the fire. He played pretty well last week, but this is a different challenge.
Yeah, I wrote it in my column earlier that, Boston College showed that this team can be good, but this is the real test. This is how we're really going to know if this team can be competitive for the rest of the season with Mason Heintschel at the helm. And I really like the matchup for the Panthers.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I don't think many people are high on what Pitt should be able to do in this game. You pull out a win here, and the in-game season that you're in now, I think the quarterback change kind of gives you a second wind and revitalizes this season, maybe gives you a little bit of hope about what they can do down the stretch here. But yeah, not many people high on what Pitt can do in this game on the road. But I think we have a different feeling about it, and we'll get into that a little bit later. But first of all, let's talk about the game itself, and I want to get into who on the Pitt side of things is going to be really key in this game, because there are a couple areas where Pitt's strengths will match up with Florida State strengths, and there are going to be some really great, I think, individual matchups in this game.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll kick us off with one that I'm really intrigued to see, and people are going to be surprised, but I think the running backs are super important for Pitt this game, because we've seen that this team can be really elite in the passing game. We have yet to totally see that in the run game, and in order for Pitt to pull out a win and stay competitive in this game, they need to be a two-dimensional team, which means they need to get that run game going. So I'm looking at Joel Goff, Jakarian Turner, Desmond Reed if he plays. We'll see later on the availability report if he's available. But it's an area that I don't think has been explosive yet. It's an area that I don't feel has been what it can be, and this is the time that they need to show up. And so that's one group that I'm really intrigued to see, and if they can hang in the bright lights.
Yeah, absolutely. For no other reason than you want to try to make things as easy as possible on Mason Heintschel against a pretty opportunistic defense. If you're throwing the ball 40 times in this game, I don't think it ends up being a great afternoon for Pitt. So these running backs have really improved. Pat Narduzzi told us today that they've been steadily improving with reps. I mean, it's two guys who, when you play behind Desmond Reed, not a ton of opportunities to get carries in real game action. But with Reed out, you see these running backs, Turner and Goff, really growing, I think, in my opinion, and showing off some of the skills that they have, the speed, the ability to catch balls out of the backfield. I think I'm also interested to see how the pass protection holds up. So, yeah, the run game's really got to be effective. I don't think they need big 70-yard runs in this game, but you got to help Pitt stay on schedule and just take a little bit of stress off of Mason Heintschel. And, obviously Mason is a big part of this. I mentioned that FSU is a pretty opportunistic secondary, forced a lot of turnovers this season. But also, I think that there are parts of this team that really need to help them out. And that's true of any time you have a true freshman starting at quarterback. But the running game is really, really huge for Pitt to help them stay on schedule and help them stay on the field and win the time of possession battle like they did last week, which was so key to playing complementary football against Boston College. I want to take it over to the defensive side of the ball, because I think the defensive line, specifically the defensive ends, are going to be really big in this game for Pitt. So a few injuries there. Obviously Jaden Moore has been out for a while. We saw Zach Carruthers go down in the last game. Blaine Spires was on the injury report as well, and he didn't play against Boston College. It's an interesting group of defensive ends right now. Isaiah Neal, giving you some snaps there as well. But seen a lot of Nate Temple, Jimmy Scott's still there kind of anchoring unit, but this is a really unique challenge in what Thomas Castellanos brings as Florida State's quarterback, just his ability to scramble and run and extend plays. Like, it's not as simple as just kind of pinning your ears back and getting to the quarterback. It's got to be disciplined play from the defensive ends and really the outside linebackers too. You can't overrun plays because Castellanos will take off and he's got great speed and he can hurt you with his legs. So it's not just kind of stopping the running backs who are really good for Florida State, but keeping them contained and bottling up this run game to again force them to be one dimensional. If Florida State is able to play 11 on 10 or 11 on 11 on offense, that's really a big notch in their favor. So if you take the quarterback run game at least out of the equation, that's going to be really huge for Pitt.
And I think this is an area the defensive line can the offensive line at Florida State is a little banged up right now. We don't know exactly if Micah Pettis is going to play, but he did go down with an injury against Miami the other day. And after he went out, the run game really took a dip down. And so if they moved over Adrian Medley from guard to tackle, and Adrian Medley is a really good guard, not the best tackle. So maybe that's an area that the Panthers defensive line and as you said, some of the linebackers too could really exploit, because you have to put that pressure on Castellanos. And here's one of his offensive linemen is not out there. There's a little bit of discombobulation, and that is an area Pitt should exploit when they can if Pettis doesn't play. Obviously, we don't have the injury report yet, but that is something to keep an eye out. Keeping it on the defense, another group that the defense as a whole is going to be really important, but another group I think we need to see some juice from is the secondary as a whole. If you haven't seen their wideout Deuce Robinson play, he's a big guy. He's a very big guy, and he's also fast for the most part and is able to make some decent plays. And I don't know if Pitt has played against as savvy as a wide receiver as Deuce Robinson. And so that secondary is really going to need to be on top of things.
Yeah, there's a guy, 2 years ago when Florida State made the run to the ACC championship and eventually won the league, Johnny Wilson. And there was another receiver whose name escapes me right now, but they had some big wideouts on that end too. And Pitt actually did a really decent job, relative to how rough that season was. The corners that they had, who I don't believe any of AJ Woods or not Marquez Williams, MJ Devonshire, and another corner whose name escapes me. There were three of them. But those guys weren't necessarily huge, but they actually held up pretty well against a pretty big Florida State receiving core. And so you're going to need a similar performance there. Pat Narduzzi talked about how typically teams will play off coverage against a guy like Deuce Robinson, just to give their corners a little bit of a cushion, a little bit of time to react. But Pitt is going to be right up in his face. They're going to be physical with him. That's really how they play against everyone. But I think especially in this matchup, it's if you are a little bit undersized and you've got 6'3" Rashad Battle, you've got 6'2" Darian Harrison, that helps you a little bit. But if somehow Sean Lee finds himself on Deuce Robinson, then he's going to have to be really physical. Pitt's going to have to be the more physical team on the outside in order to win against Robinson. And, again, the defensive line plays into it as well. If you're able to keep Castellanos in the pocket, if you're able to make him sweat a little bit and make him beat you as a pocket passer, that really does help you in coverage against Deuce Robinson. But these corners are going to have their hands full all afternoon.
Yeah, and we ran through a little bit of it, but there are those are our biggest matchups that I think that we're looking for. There are so many more things about this Florida State team that are important to Pitt finding success if they're able to find success. And Steven's actually going down to Tallahassee this weekend to cover the game for us. And he's got the preview for the team too. So what else do we need to know about Florida State?
Yeah, I think you look at their record. I believe are they 2-3? No, 3-2 right now. We're still kind of a long ways from that Alabama win, but this team is, at least statistically, I think better than it feels right now because they've taken 2 straight losses. But both those losses to good teams: Virginia, who's in the top 20, Miami, who's a top 2 team in some people's opinions, the number 1 team in the country. But they've done it with a really run heavy offense. They can play, like I said, 11 on 11 on offense, which is, especially in the run game, which is not something that every team gets to do. And off of that, they are able to hit on some shot plays through the passing game. They don't pass a ton, but they are efficient when they do it. Personally, I am so excited to watch Gus Malzahn offense work. His Auburn teams were kind of like foundational to my love of college football. That 2013 Auburn team where, Gus Malzahn makes Nick Marshall, a defensive back, into, one of the best players, quarterbacks in the SEC. He takes him to a national championship. So I am really thrilled and eager to see how this offense works in person. But, on the other side of the ball, well, actually, I should say, because of how efficient they are in the pass game when they pick their spots and they stay on schedule in the run game, they're really good on third downs. They're number one in the ACC in third down conversions. They're number one in fourth down conversions as well. So this is a team that is able to stay on schedule and pick their spots about when to take shots. So Pitt kind of create havoc if they can up front is going to be really huge. But on the defensive side of the ball, this is a team that is really solid in the front seven. Like I said, the opportunistic on the back end, but a little bit like Pitt, it's built around being really solid up front, stopping the run, and then taking advantage when teams make mistakes through the passing game. The other thing of note is that this is a really disciplined team. They don't commit a lot of penalties. I believe they lead the ACC in fewest penalties. They commit the fewest penalties in the ACC or have so far this year. So Pitt is really going to have to earn this one. This isn't going to be a game where you can count on Florida State giving you points or giving you plays. Thomas Castellanos might put the ball in harm's way a little bit. I believe he's at 3 touchdowns and 4 interceptions against Power 4 competition so far this year. So might have some opportunities there. But Florida State is not really going to give you many opportunities to capitalize on their mistakes. So yeah, like I said, Pitt's really going to have to earn this one. That's probably why not many people are optimistic about what Pitt can do in this game. ESPN's FPI gives Florida State better than a 75% chance of winning this game. The spread is at 10.5 points in favor of Florida State. So Abby, I guess we can jump right into our game picks to close this episode out. First of all, let's tackle the big one. Do you think Pitt wins the game?
I want to say yes, but I cannot say yes. I do think Florida State is going to pull this one out. I just think they're a little bit more battle tested than Pitt, and they're playing at home. We've seen a complete game from Pitt, but it wasn't against a great opponent, and I just don't have the confidence right now to say that Pitt could pull it out. However, I also won't totally be surprised if they do.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think Pitt is capable of winning this game, but it's just hard to imagine that, Mason Heintschel is able to replicate what he did last week against Boston College. I think the defense is going to be stressed. And, until I see Pitt kind of clean up some of their penalty issues, I'm nervous about them walking into a pretty tough environment down in Tallahassee and emerging with a win. But Abby, that's a big spread. According to our friends at FanDuel, 10.5 points is the spread. Do you think that Pitt covers in this game? Is it a blowout victory for Florida State, or is it a closer one?
I don't think Florida State will cover this spread. I think it's going to be a lot closer of a game than people think. Like you mentioned, a lot of ESPN has Florida State as winning that game 75%. I think this Pitt team is going to surprise some people, and it's going to be closer. Again, I still think Florida State is going to win, but I'd say more like a 3.5 spread in my mind is a little bit more realistic.
Yeah, the home field advantage is real. The fact that Florida State is battle tested, I think that's real too. But no chance in my mind that this game is decided by more than a touchdown. So I'm with you. I think Pitt covers this one, not able to pull out a victory. But yeah, that 10.5 points is pretty crazy. ESPN's S&P Plus, from Bill Conley has this closer to, like you said, I believe he has the spread at 3.6 points. So I'm going to treat that as my guiding light in this game. And last one, over under point total 58.5 points. Abby, does this get high scoring?
I think I want it to be, but I think I'm going to take the under. I think it's going to be like right around 57-ish points, but not totally eclipse that 58.5. And I say that because of what we saw from Boston College. And I just can't imagine Pitt scoring that much or Florida State scoring that much. And so I feel like a 57-ish range is accurate, but below that 58.5.
I'm with you. Yeah. We are in full alignment on all of our game picks. I think it's actually, I think the point total is actually going to be much further from that 58.5. Like I'm thinking like a 27-20 final score. I think the defenses are really going to dominate. So I'm expecting a much lower point total and a little bit of a defensive struggle, but we will see. Still plenty of coverage to come this weekend. Like Abby said, I will be down in Tallahassee covering this game live. And Abby will certainly be providing her own takes and her own coverage from home. So we are really excited to bring that all to you. Make sure you're staying tuned to post-gazette.com for our written work. And then make sure you're liking this video and subscribe to PG Pitt on YouTube so you do not miss a thing. Thank you all for joining us, and we will see you next time.
Thank you for checking out this content from Post-Gazette Sports. If you watch this video on YouTube, please like the video and subscribe to our channel. For all of the sports coverage the Post-Gazette has to offer, visit post-gazette.com.